This?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, great. I have like a fan next to me, like to get some air. Like, is it creating any sound that's bothering you, or is it
No, I
fine?
can't. I can't even hear it. You're good to go.
Okay, great. So, okay, I'm recording. So let's see. Hopefully, like last time, I got kicked out of my own spaces. So I hope this time I won't have any troubles. Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, I
yeah.
hope not.
They always say
So
they fix the bugs, but there's always like something that goes wrong.
it is
Uh,
what it is, right?
yeah,
Technology's good, but
yeah.
sometimes it kicks
Not
us in the
not
butt.
our platform, so I cannot complain, and it's free. So,
Absolutely. Where are you calling from?
Central Europe.
Awesome. Very
Yep.
cool.
Where are you located in the US? But where, like, which state?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey, a little
Yeah.
bit outside of New York City.
Oh, nice, nice. I lived like in the West Coast for 4 years, but now I'm in Europe.
Awesome. That's great.
Mm.
Yeah, the West Coast is nice. I've been out to Italy 3 times. I can't wait to go back. But
Yeah. Let's
yeah.
see how this summer will be.
Exactly. I think it's going to be far better, but we'll still have to see and be safe.
Okay, so let's start. Maybe you can like give a brief introduction of yourself and maybe like your brand of what you do on social media so that people who are not familiar with you can get some basic information.
Yeah, absolutely. So my main background is I'm a young entrepreneur, and I just spent the last 6 years in college basketball. So that was my career through college and then into grad school. And then I left when COVID hit. I had started the brand that you see here, Unleash the Knowledge, on Instagram back in September of 2019. And long story short, have grown it pretty fast to over 60,000 followers just on Instagram. Have branched out to other social platforms. As you see, I'm on Twitter now and have grown pretty fast here too. And pretty much have just pushed the brand in a direction where I'm trying to send out the big ideas from the best books for people to digest in 5 minutes. So, of course, I want to push for people to be readers and, of course, lifelong learners. But I do know people are busy and people have a lot going on. So I read a lot and I've read a lot. So my mission with the page and the brand is pretty much to condense the big ideas and get it over to people very quickly. And then the business side of things, it's emerged since I started the brand. It was never my intention when starting Unleash the Knowledge to turn it into a business, but I noticed that there's an immense lack with book promotions, and a lot of people are you know they're publishing nonfiction books on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, and very minimal people know how to promote it, know how to build a digital brand, how to build an email list, and the whole deal there. So that's kind of where I've built my niche into a business where I've helped authors, uh, you know, perfect this process. Along with all that, I'm also a co-founder in another startup that I've shed a bit of light through this brand, but not so much. But we'll be pushing it far more in the coming weeks. But it's called Gura, and it's a live streaming platform built for learning experiences. So essentially, it's like Coursera and Gumroad. And Udemy and Masterclass, but it's live video and it's for creators. So, someone like yourself can run a live session, connect with your audience on a deeper level, show your face, show your expertise over live video. And it's not reliant on Zoom. We have our own video capabilities. And then you can earn money in the process because you'll be selling virtual tickets for 10, 20, $40, whatever you choose to do so. So that's in the works. That's going to launch very soon. We are technically live, but we'll be, getting things rolling a bit more. But you could check out that if you want at gura.io. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much how I spend my time. I'm reading. I work with a lot of people in the digital space. I'm building my own stuff, and trying to, impact the world in a positive way.
Okay, that sounds like you have too many things on your plate, but you've been handling them pretty well so far. So I'm going to start like first with the books. You mentioned that you started this account as your mission was to give like book summaries to people who do not have time to read. And I think I'm one of them because, like, sometimes I buy 4 or 5 books and I put them in my library, but then you don't have time to read, or sometimes, you pick one, then you don't finish it, you pick another one. So, like, how did
Right.
you get started with, like, how did you find your passion about reading, and what kind of books are you reading?
Yeah, absolutely. So to the first point you made, I do have a problem that I like to spread myself too thin, but I don't think that's too much of a negative at this current moment in my life because I'm trying to learn and absorb as much information as I can and then funnel into the pieces that I'm really passionate about. So, by no means am I saying that's the ideal plan, but it's somewhat working for me at the current moment. But yeah, to your question, so being involved in Division One basketball and being a part of two championship programs, that's pushed my love into personal development. In sports, you have to be working on your game every single minute of every single day. You need to be in the gym, on the field, whatever your sport is, you need to be in that arena working on your craft. So through being exposed to all that, especially at the high level of United States Division One program, I I was a sponge and I was absorbing everything that my coach was doing. I'd go into his office, I'd see the books that he had on his desk. He would ask me to print out blogs. I'd print out, two copies. I'd read one. I'd give him one. He'd talk about podcasts. I'd go save those podcasts and listen to those later. So I was just this, living as this sponge to absorb as much information. So I was really never a reader in high school. I was actually a pretty poor student in high school, to be completely transparent. I was super social and playing sports, but I wasn't very passionate about the actual academic side of things. And then when I got to college, I pretty much flipped a switch and dove into, working on my grades and doing well in the classroom, joining clubs and so forth. And then obviously basketball was a really big part of my experience. But that's how it all really started. So, I got to a point in my basketball career where I saw where the future was going and I was, losing interest more or less. And I pretty much just took all that I learned on the personal development side and what it takes to be a champion, away from the actual basketball piece of what you need to do on the court, but taking the mindset stuff and the books to read and the people to center yourself around. So all that stuff I took and have put into this brand, have put into my life. So that's kind of how this whole passion and this drive to read the best books, to learn from the best thinkers in the world originated. And to your second question, what am I reading right now? So I'm reading The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel at
That's
the
a
current
great book.
moment.
I need to read this one. I've heard like so many good words from many people.
Yeah, and a lot of guys on Twitter do a really great job in the finance space of speaking about how important the mental side of investing is. And honestly, it's probably 80-20, 90% mental, 10% action in the financial
Yeah,
space.
that's exactly right.
Right. And you yourself, I mean, you're one of those guys that's preaching the good knowledge. So this book specifically touches upon that 100%. Talks about wealth and greed and happiness and how to, you know, just put your money in the places where it's going to work hard for you, but not get so attached that you're losing sleep and taking too big of risks that you can't handle. So, yeah, that's the book right now. I'm working with an author right now, Tyler McAllister, that I just sent out his book on Twitter and Instagram. So I'll, of course, plug that right now. It's called Young, Grown, and Knowledgeable. He's a college grad, Army ROTC um, lieutenant, and has written this book about simply just life lessons that are not taught in school that you gain throughout your life. And for someone, coming out of high school, coming out of college, even into their 30s, it's a perfect book for them. They'd gain a ton of knowledge.
Yes. So, like, I just want to like go back a bit to what you said previously, that you kind of flipped the switch when you started reading books in college. Do you think this was because, for example, the the process, that how things are done in school, they don't give you this appetite for learning and reading because you have too much work for school, so then you don't want to read more. And then you went to college, and from what I understand, your coach was kind of the person that pushed you in this direction of learning outside of school, not just reading the college curriculum, but reading like books for to improve your life outside of what you are studying. So how important do you think is to have like a person, or to have the right books to read? Because sometimes you get a few books that maybe are not the right ones for you.
Yeah, so I guess to your overarching question, I'm definitely not an anti. I'm definitely not an anti-college guy. I think there's tons of value in college. Um, Whether you're studying something that's very technical, you definitely need to go to college for that. But even if you're a guy who's in sales, marketing, or anything that you can pretty much learn on the internet today, there's still benefit from being there in terms of networking and just living life and getting through that process. But I think the thing that lacks the most in a high school and formal education, at least in the States, is the direction or instruction towards how to learn and how to take notes and how to approach this whole idea of retaining information. That's all topics that is never discussed. It's kind of like, here's the material, go home and go read it, memorize it, and then remember it for the exam. That is not a sustainable way to retain information. There's a lot of guys, in the world that talk about habit building and productivity and learning, like guys like Jim Quick and James Clear, and there's a science behind it. I mean, there's definitely an approach to learning retention and um, taking what you've learned and applying it into your life, and that all that is not taught as well or at all in the school system. So I think that's the main change that needs to happen. um, I guess to one of your other points, and if I missed this mark, let me know, but of reading the right books or coming across the wrong books. So I mean, you can generally find the most I guess talked about books on the internet. I mean, obviously, go follow me if you like. I post a lot of the so-called trending books or world-class books that a lot of people recommend, like Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and a ton of other ones. So those are the ones I would encourage you to, of course, start with. But to preface this whole what I just said, I would encourage you to go and find the original texts. So books from the early 1900s. So a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, those concepts, whether they're, I mean, everything is built upon everything. So even though that book is pretty original, and a lot of people go to that as the priceless kind of number one book in the space of communication and building relationships, that's, of course, I'm sure, been built on other topics. But that being said, there's so many books today that are built off of the topics and the concepts in that book. So I always encourage people, hey, before you read a book that was published in 2020, 2021, go try to see what the book is talking about, and then go find the original books that already were published, because I'm sure the author based 80% of their knowledge off of that original text and then kind of put their own twist, made it more modern, connected it to the world today. So that I don't think is even talked about enough. So there's books like, Think and Grow
And I
Rich,
think
which is,
even earlier than that, like if you even read like some Stoic books, like from ancient Rome or from ancient Greece, or like even earlier, you will see that basically the principles, the basic principles of the teachings are timeless, and all the modern books are basically just kind of adapting these principles to the modern age. Because I've read like books from different centuries and ages, and I think it's the same messages that they're trying to pass.
absolutely. I mean, there's, the world has changed by all means, but that's one of the best things I think about learning and reading is you find these topics and concepts that you read about. And the text is from, like you said, the Stoic times back in Roman Empire times, but they still stand true today. And that's incredible. And that's the type of knowledge that you should be absorbing and applying into your life 100%.
And now moving like to the digital side, how did you decide to create a brand on social media? Because most people have their social media, especially Instagram, for posting pictures about vacations, about their dogs, about fancy life. So how did you decide to create a brand, and especially about books?
Yeah. So um, I've always been pretty in tune with social media, and I studied public relations for a good portion of my college career. So I've kind of been in this realm. I've started pages in the past. I used to have a page that was my digital vision board, more or less. It was like supercars and mansions and Rolex watches, just all these materialistic things, which is not even close to really what I'm all about. But it was just motivation to, see something that you could potentially purchase one day. So Unleash the Knowledge is definitely not my first digital brand. I guess we'll say that. So there was a lot of learning to do so, but flat out, the reason why I started this brand, truthfully, was to build my own type of LinkedIn community. So a professional network of lifelong learners, readers, people that wanted to be entrepreneurs, that wanted to go against the status quo. That's been the foundational reason of why I've done it, and it still stands true today. I've met so many people through the process right now. Incredible opportunities that have come about. Starting this, I have a podcast. I've interviewed, a billionaire. I've interviewed multimillionaires, best-selling authors, the whole deal. So that was the mission behind it. And I'm passionate about books. I'm passionate about personal development. I'm passionate about bettering yourself on a daily basis, learning from your past to perfect your present and your future. And that's it right there. That's why I've done it all, and it's not work to me. It's exciting, and I'm learning something new every day, and I love to hear from other people. I've helped them read more and become more passionate about reading. So for all those reasons, it's been worthwhile.
Yes, I think you've done an excellent job so far, and especially I see on Instagram you've crossed 60,000 followers. So I just wanted to ask, like you said, you had like you had some digital brands before, and you learned some lessons. So when you started this one on Instagram and Twitter, what were the lessons that you knew beforehand that helped you kind of grow exponentially? Because you've had a tremendous growth, and on Twitter you have 8,000, I think, and on Instagram it's like 60 something thousand.
Yeah.
So what were the basic lessons that you already knew, and what were the lessons that you learned along the way on how to grow properly?
Sure. Great question. So, and a lot of these lessons are life lessons too. They've stemmed from basketball. They've stemmed from my life. So number one, by all means, if you ask me what the key to success is, the only thing I could tell you is it's consistency. It's doing it every single day when it sucks, when it's enjoyable, when you don't want to do it, when it's hard, or when it feels like it's the best thing, to do that day. So I posted every single day since September 14th, 2019 on Instagram. So coming up on 2 years, and that just shows you the consistent action right there. Even in basketball, you're practicing every single day. You're in the gym for hours, and that's how you win championships. So consistency is the number one piece. The other thing is content, and that's, no one wants to hear that content is king, but that's the truth by all means. You need to provide value. You need to provide actionable tips. Obviously on Twitter specifically, you need to be able to condense your thoughts into a very informative and, I guess 240 character message, if that's the limit today. So that's all things that I knew of and have gone better at, and I still have so far to go myself too with doing all that. And then the other piece I'll share is that when you're building a digital brand, no one knows who you are unless you put yourself out there. So there's a whole aspect to engaging with other people, showing your brand. So Instagram specifically, one of my goals or my daily messages that I always shared with myself was I want to post I want my logo to pop up on people's story feeds. So, you see about 4 or 5 stories on your feed every time you go onto Instagram. I want to always be one of those 5. That was one of my goals. So I posted consistent, high level story content, and felt that if I kept showing myself in that realm, people will stick around, they'll tell their friends, and they'll follow. So, of course, Instagram and Twitter, they change rapidly, and they're an ever-changing type of platform, but I still think that tactic works super well. And engaging with people, making friends, collaborating, these are all super important pieces, because at the end of the day, this is social media, and you have to be social. You have to network. You have to build relationships. So
I think that's the most important. Like, even if your account, doesn't go very well, you still have the opportunity to meet people and collaborate outside of social media. Like you
100.
mentioned the startup that you created, like you can meet people online and you can collaborate on other things.
Absolutely. I mean, I just I've I got a listener right now that I see, my friend Adam, and we just met up for the first time. Built a relationship through Twitter, and we met up in Arizona, which is hours from my house and hours from his house. So by all means, there's connections that need to be made on these social media platforms, but by all means, take it elsewhere. Take it in person, or build something together. Do a video chat. Do a phone call. I've hopped on tons of phone calls with people from social media, and that's where it is, man. I agree with that 100%. Take it the next step.
Yeah, that's great to hear that you've actually made real life connections with people here and you've met even when you're far away. That's great to hear. Um, like I wanted to ask, like, because Twitter is mostly text and Instagram is mostly, images and videos. So what were the two, like, how do you approach these two social media different in terms of how you create your content and how you engage with your followers?
Yeah, great question. So, I definitely think Twitter is more informational. I think you have to be a bit wittier and a bit more intelligent to condense your thoughts that can, provide value to others. So for that, I really enjoy it. On Instagram, you can get away with posting a nice picture of a car or a house or whatever that may be, and you can get a ton of likes. But for me in particular, I've um, I've treated Instagram where I give like book recommendation book stacks. So a visual image of books that I encourage others to read. And then on the flip side, in Twitter, I've taken kind of a deeper approach where I take the contents of the book and share those. I don't know if you've caught any of my like book bite threads,
Yeah,
but
I've seen
I've been
several of your threads about book summaries, and they're very informative, I have to say.
right. Thank you. So that's exactly what I'm doing. On Instagram, you'll see the picture. Maybe you'll get a shorter blurb. Um, but I don't think people are reading captions as much on Instagram as they are on Twitter. So I've kind of spent more time on Twitter to actually dive deeper into the contents of a book, the big ideas, and I also have a newsletter where I do the same. And then on Instagram, it's more of just like visually appealing images, and um, I've been slowly, making different real videos and informative videos where I'm highlighting similar contents of these um, book bites, like, 8 passionate lessons about a book. So I've been doing that over there too. But they're different platforms, and you gotta kind of play to each game. But I have to say, since I've hopped on Twitter, I'm a huge fan, and I wish I started far earlier. I wish I started my personal brand far earlier. That's something I'm just starting now too. So, just different approaches. But by all means, it is the best way to kind of summarize, I guess, is Instagram's a visual platform. You got to post visually appealing content, and then the caption comes secondary. But on Twitter, the caption or the thread or the tweet is primary, and you got to, provide a top tier level of value in that regard.
Yes, I completely agree with you about wanting to start earlier because I started being active in January of this year. And like it's been 5 months and I already wish that I should have started this like years ago. Because like I didn't even know that this side of social media existed. Because so far I was only exposed to the side that I mentioned before about people, posting about their personal lives and their vacations and trying to kind of show how awesome time they're having. And on Twitter, I thought I was just following some journalists and news organizations. I didn't even know this whole side of money, Twitter, and side hustles was even existing until
well,
like a few months ago.
you're still ahead of the game. We're all ahead of the game, and it's still new concepts. It's not something that's, people have been earning money on Twitter or social or internet social media for at most 20 years now, 21 years since 2000, since the turn of the century when the internet pretty much has come about. So it's still in its infancy stage. And for that, it's super exciting that we're a part of it. And just thinking about what the future holds, I have a long term mindset, and for that, today's great, the present's great, but I'm excited for what the future has to hold as well with all these platforms.
Yeah, that's right. Because I've seen like tremendous growth, like so many people coming on Twitter and so many different brands. And like you mentioned, for example, before Gumroad and all these online platforms that, a few years back, not many people were aware that you can take some online courses instead of like going to college, or you can sell your book on Gumroad, or you can sell your, services online instead of, let's say publishing your book the normal way that it has been done for years. So I think
Ab-
maybe because sometimes we see so many people on Twitter, that have like more followers than you and making more money, and you think you are being kind of left behind. But if you actually watch out in the real world that like 99% of the people are not even aware of this, you are still way ahead of most people.
Absolutely. And the best part about it, in my opinion, is the real time feedback and market research that you can conduct in seconds. You can push something out, or before you even push something out, you can DM a bunch of people, you could poll a bunch of people that are in your target audience to see if this is even something of value to them. Without the internet or without social media, you've had to go through way bigger headaches and a longer journey to get all that same data. So for that reason, it's sped a lot of things up. And yeah, to your point, I mean, it's created um, loads of businesses and financial freedom and time freedom for a lot of folks, and it's only going to continue. So we should be very fortunate that we're in the game at this current moment.
Yeah, and especially for me, like the pandemic, we all say that it was something unfortunate, but it gave me the opportunity to work from home and like, have actually time and freedom to create this brand. Because if I had to be in the office all day, I wouldn't be able to devote time and create this brand. So for me, it was like the pandemic and actually working from home changed many things for me for better. And like actually, I cannot imagine now myself going back to normal, to what was considered normal actually before, like 2 years ago.
Right. It shows you what's possible, and the world has definitely changed, I think, for the better. Where you don't have to commute as much, you don't have to waste gas. I'm sure that's going to have direct correlation to our global pollution problem, at least in the States. So there's, by staying at home and um, having a far better quality of life, going on walks outside whenever you feel like you can, and then doing exactly what we're doing and impacting people and spreading good knowledge um, through the internet, through social media is definitely the way to go, and it's never been easier today. So um, it's great that we're in the mix right now, and I'm sure tons of people will be continue to hop on. And there's always going to be someone who was in your shoes a year ago or 2 years ago, and that's the person you can help. So as you grow, you'll always have someone else that you can impact. So that's where um, that's where the fulfillment comes, in my opinion.
So for someone that is like starting right now to build a digital brand on Twitter or Instagram, what would your advice be?
Yeah. So my main advice, first piece of advice would be, well, two things. You really need to niche down. So don't try to impress or impact everybody. Find something super specific. So for me, I'm still pretty specific. I'm nonfiction books. If you really want to go more deeper than that, personal development, self help books. Um, but now that I've kind of grown a bit more of an audience, I can branch out a bit more to maybe online business or ways to make money, entrepreneurship, whatever that may be. But I'm still pretty centered on my target, market. So niche down is very important. A lot of people want to be everybody to everybody, and you can't do that. It's not going to work. And then the other piece I'd say is um, it needs to be something that you're gonna not get bored of for a very long time, every single day. So whether it's something you're passionate about or something you have interest in, just know that you're going to be working on it very closely on a very daily efforts, or a daily basis. So those two things are very important. um, think about content. Content's got to be number one, and And then, the other piece, I guess, fourth piece of advice would be start seeing who's already out there doing what you're looking to do. Because there's definitely someone, like I just said, doing it that has been doing it for longer than you that you could learn from. If they have a course, go buy their course. It's probably super cheap or probably it's probably priced way lower than it should be. And then DM them, make a relationship, and kind of begin that process. And through that, you'll speed track your growth.
Yeah, that's right. Because like especially when I started, like there are so many people giving sometimes bad advice, and it's kind of difficult to find the real ones. So I think it's also important to build personal connections. As you said, like niche down, find something that you're really passionate about and that you like talking about. But I think you also need some discipline, because you mentioned that you need to do this like every day. You
Right.
need to write every day. You cannot be like on and off. So I think sometimes discipline is more important than having motivation or having passion about what you're doing.
Yeah, those all play roles. I mean, discipline is key, and that just goes with. I mean, that's just the one word to encapsulate the idea that you're going to be doing this every single day, and you can't get bored of it, or, um, I mean, you can hate it. You can think it's the worst thing some days, but what separates the people that are great from the people that are good, they still do the work. They still put it in and day out when they feel like it and when they don't feel like it. So, um, yeah, try to find something that you're super interested in. And I know the big, $1 million question that everyone asks is how do you find your passion? And I struggled with this tremendously. And I think you can have more than one passion. I think people have some sort of narrative that you only have one passion, but I don't think that's true whatsoever. I still have a passion for basketball. I think it's an amazing sport. I have a passion for learning. I have a passion for building lifelong relationships with people that are going to better myself. So there's so many things that you can love and be passionate about and then kind of bring all together. And social media allows you to do that in one place. Um, but to I guess my advice to someone who's trying to find what that is for them is honestly build some self awareness and analyze what you're doing on a daily basis, what type of content you're consuming, what books you're reading, what YouTube videos you're watching, and try to draw a through line between all of that and be like, wow, okay, I'm consuming a lot of personal finance knowledge. Maybe that's what I'm passionate about. I also invest. Like, okay, great. Maybe I'm the money guy. Maybe I'm the personal finance guy. That's what I should that's the type of content I should develop. So, take that second to like analyze your daily work and maybe even write it down. Like I used to do that. I still sometimes do it. I recap the day at the end of the day and try to remember everything I did, and it helps with my retention of on a day to day basis. But I used to also build out a to do list, but I used to also have a spreadsheet that I wrote out things I accomplished to then look back and be like, okay, today was a pretty productive day, or wow, yesterday was a terrible day. It was not productive, and this is why. So I think those are all practices that people should take on. And, it's not the most glamorous, but it'll separate you from others and it'll give you a clear perspective on how to take on each day. And then ultimately, of course, find how you should be spending your time or what areas you're most interested in.
But I think apart from passion, like even if you don't have passion about something, like you mentioned that you're writing down stuff, like sometimes you can look back on this and see what problems you faced. Maybe it was for money, maybe it was for your diet, your workout, or anything. And then if you can look back on that, you can find the solutions and the tips that actually improved your life. And then you can
Absolutely,
use
yeah.
that and give it as knowledge to the people that are like 6 months behind you. Let's say that someone is beginning now and has the same issues that you faced 6 months ago or 1 year ago, because like that's how I started mine. I was reading a lot of books, like you mentioned, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and so many investing and finance books, reading blogs, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, documentaries, all everything you can imagine. But sometimes like you find bad advice and you follow some bad advice and you realize that, oh, I shouldn't have done this. So you learn your lesson, you face struggles, and then you find your solutions, and then these solutions can be the
Yeah.
knowledge
Oh,
that you
I don't know if you
can.
cut out if you were still talking, but yeah, I completely agree, man. That's I mean, we could talk about, weight training and fitness. If I didn't write down my workouts and my progress, I would have literally no recollection of what I achieved. I have a red notebook that I use every time I go to the gym, and for that, it's a life changer. It reminds me of um, what I did the previous day and what I should do today, and the reps and the weight and so forth. So by documenting all that, it will give you clarity for sure, and it will lead you in the right direction moving forward.
Yeah, that's right. So now that you have reached like a good point on Instagram, you have like 60,000 followers. Oops, sorry. Hear me now?
Okay, I think we're good. Sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Uh, yeah, it happens sometimes with a connection. It's difficult. So back
Yeah,
to what I was saying, like you've grown your brand like on Instagram to like 60,000, and on Twitter it's like almost 8,000. So uh, let's say, what are your plans for monetizing this brand if you haven't already done that?
yeah. So I've monetized it through a service business, not to the consumer, but kind of like a B2B. So it's towards the authors. So I work with authors to help them build their digital brand, email marketing, email magnets, promote in front of my audience. I'm sure you've seen, like I did today, I posted Tyler McAllister's book. That's a promotion that I'm doing for him. My audience is readers and learners. So it's a great group of people that I can get a new book out to, and raise awareness for it, to get people to check out the author, or obviously purchase the book if they feel like they are interested in to do so. um, on the consumer side, I pushed out my Instagram branding course. I never really wanted to do that. I never wanted to be like a course guy, but a lot of people had told me to share everything I know about Instagram. So I did that, and I put this course out, and good amount of people have picked it up. Not a tremendous amount, but I've only actually been selling it on Twitter, because my you know Instagram predominantly to me is not to really sell a course, or this course on how to build an Instagram brand on that platform, if that kind of makes sense. It's really just a kind of really impart knowledge. And then when I got into money Twitter, I kind of saw, oh, okay, people might want this product. So I've been using Twitter to promote that. And then moving forward, I'm working on a higher ticket offer where I can kind of extend more help to authors, and allow them or teach them how to build their personal brand, digital brand, strategy, marketing, how to get more readers, how to become a best-selling author, pretty much just how to leverage the internet like I have, but specific to their niche. So that's kind of the next step for me. But I'm also spending a good amount of time building Gura, the new startup. So that's going to soon probably take more of my time. I'll still be producing content for Unleash the Knowledge, but potentially might be taking a little bit of a back seat, because my focus will be in Gura if it begins to take off. We'll see how it goes, though.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you worked one-on-one with authors, especially to build a digital brand and how to sell digital products. So, like for many who are like beginners in this field, and let's say they're trying to create a course or an ebook or something to that extent, what advice do you have first in terms of content, and second in terms of how to market and promote their products?
Yeah, so 100% don't 100% provide value first. That's the name of the game. I'm sure you've heard that a million times. I'm sure others have too, but that's really the truth behind it. You can very well start a brand with the intention to monetize it eventually, but you probably won't be earning much money off of it, in the early days at least, unless you want to take an affiliate marketing position in it and the product aligns with your brand. But you can really destroy a personal brand or a digital brand, whatever, faceless, anonymous, branded to a specific niche, whatever it may be. You can ruin it if you just start pumping out a bunch of different random content. You want to do the research or do the work prior to really going all in on it, to make sure you know who your so-called avatar is, which is just your perfect follower, your perfect client, whatever that person may be, whether it's just the person consuming your content or someone that you're looking to sell to. So for all those reasons, you should, get clear on that, and then begin producing content towards that specific person. Um, and then, I'm sure you'll get creative, or you can find something that's working for you, or maybe you learn that you have a piece of knowledge that not almost everybody knows, and then you can package that into an ebook, a PDF, whether it's free or paid, or a course, or even a coaching service if that's something you're interested in. So there's tons of ways to monetize. But my advice will always be to be authentic and take have that as your first approach. Know who your audience is, know who you're looking to target, and then trying to put all those pieces together with a paid offer that you can start earning some money through that process. But once you get going and once you see who else is in the space, you'll see what they're doing, and you'll definitely don't try to reinvent the wheel. I think that's good advice for everything across the board in life. So see what's working, see what's interesting, see how you can maybe provide more value, or a different kind of spin to it because you've had different experiences, um, and then go forward with that. I think then you'll be able to capitalize, and people will respect the work that you produce.
Yeah, I think that's very important what you said. Don't try to reinvent the wheel because so many people fall in the trap of trying to be very original and trying to be very authentic and say that, oh, this field is, saturated. There are too many people talking about, let's say, finance and investing or about digital brands or e-commerce. But I think you can see what works and put your own personal touch and twist to it and maybe add more value because just because many people do something and if many people write books about finance and investing doesn't mean that all these books are full of value. So maybe you can fill a gap in terms of value, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Some of the best creators don't even ask for a dollar, and you can sell in other ways. One of the best ways to sell on the digital platforms is, I think, through email or through live video. So it's taking that next step, truly providing a ton of value, daily content in their email box, or offering up your time, your valuable finite time on a live video, and then maybe offering, sharing what else you have to offer, and maybe people will take action on that. But I mean, I do this on Twitter. I sell through my tweets here and there because I truly want people to grab what I have to offer because I think it will potentially change their life as it has for me. So I'm just sharing what I know works. But I don't even like the action. I'm not even that big of a fan of sending out these salesy tweets or whatever they may look like to other people. Um, it's just it's a different it's a different beast, and you kind of gotta, it's part of the game. But some of the people that I love consuming their content that I know do well financially, you never see them ever sell. And now that I'm in the digital marketing space and I'm seasoned in this realm of things, I know that there's ways that they do sell without I guess coming flat out in front of their followers and saying, hey, go buy this. It could be through email, it could be through Facebook ads, it could be through webinars, speaking engagements, many other ways. So take that into consideration too. If
Yeah, because
you're
I've seen so many accounts, especially on Twitter, fall in the trap of promoting uh, their products or other people's products, but end up like spamming your feed like with links. Like every post they make is about someone's product, or every tweet has a link below. So I think it's like sometimes it's very easy to fall in this trap of just spamming people with links. And I think after some point it kind of loses value and it hurts your growth and long-term brand.
right, and that's you just hit the nail on the head on that last point, that you should be building this brand for the long term. I spoke a bit about that. The internet is still in its infancy stage after 21 years, but this thing is going to be around for a very very long time, and um, you got to look at your brand as a business, whether it truly is or it's just your digital brand. And I think people should look at themselves as personal brands as well. There's a great book by Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. It's called like The Startup of You. I read it a couple years ago, and it essentially speaks to this, that you yourself the way you dress, the way you act, the way you interact with people. You are a business. You are a personal brand. So that's how you should treat yourself. You are a startup. Um, so if people start thinking in that way, they will stop chasing after the quick wins and start building for the long term. And either, by taking that approach, you're going to be far better off. And that just, that connects to the great concept of delayed gratification. And I'm sure you know this from the financial space and investing and kind of, low cost ETFs or index funds, but over time, and history proves it, it's one of the better bets to put your money towards. So to keep thinking in that way, you'll be far better off than most others just looking for that next big win, or that GameStop jump, or AMC, or all the madness we've seen in the last few months, specifically to the stock market.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this principle of delayed gratification applies to everything. It's not about investing, it's about life, it's about work, it's about anything you can imagine. And I think when you play the long-term game, it increases your chances of actually succeeding and having sustained success, not just some uh, blips in the radar. Because I've seen it with like many accounts, they fall in this trap of increasing your followers, which is like, I mean, we all want to do that, but sometimes you fall in the trap of just focusing only on the numbers, which is like something short term, and not like creating an audience or a community like you have done, for example. Because like people know that you provide value for people who want to read and for authors, so you have like some long-term value that you provide, and you can have a great brand that will be sustainable over the years.
100, absolutely. I completely agree. That should be a strong focus of yours, and anyone else looking to build something. Always think long term.
Yeah, and also what you mentioned, like treating yourself as a startup, I think that's very important. You need to know what's your long-term mission, what do you want to do like 5, 10 years from now. The same question that they may ask you in a job interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's not,
Right.
you can ask that yourself outside of your job, like where do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now? What do you want to do? And then break it down and treat yourself like a company. If it's Twitter, or if it's your job, or if it's your learning, or if it's a digital brand, or anything that you might be involved in.
And I'll take it a step further, and this can touch a bit about what we spoke about before in terms of stoicism. Think about what you'll be looking at back at your life on your deathbed, and what you wish you would have done, and um, thinking 50, 60 years down the road, if you're young, or however old you are, thinking about the day you're 80 or 90 years old and your time is wrapping up. you know are you going to be happy with what you did today, but also thinking that life can be short, but it could also be very long. So for building for those years to come, and when you get there, you'll be much happier that you did, because you've built for the long term, and you delayed gratification, and you built systems, and you put things in place that are hopefully going to put you in a position for financial and time freedom, or essentially just happiness. And yeah, so the 5 year down the road question in the interview is fantastic, but I'm always thinking of legacy, and the deathbed kind of analogy, or visualization, to make sure what I'm doing today is worthwhile.
That's great. So I think I've asked all the questions I wanted to ask. We had like a very great conversation. So maybe let's see if there are any questions from the listeners. If they request the mic to ask a question, and I can check also if I got any questions in the DMs or in the comments below the. Let me see.
Sure, go ahead if anyone's
Yeah,
interested. We'll do that.
I didn't have a question. Adam is requesting. Let's see.
Hey guys, good
Oh,
space.
hello.
Hey Owen, I wanted to ask, which one did you have more fun, growing the Twitter or growing Instagram?
Great question, Adam. That's tough, because they've been two different experiences for me. Um, I think I'll stay loyal to Instagram and say that. Obviously, I've spent a year and a half running with that platform, and now only 6 months running on this one. And I also think I had the quick growth on Twitter, because I've already had an established mindset of the brand and also had content that I could repurpose. So I don't know if it would have went the same way if I was just starting on Twitter. So, Twitter's been fantastic, and I've, have been very pleased with the results. But I do think it all has stemmed from Instagram. So I'll have to stay loyal with my Instagram platform and answer that way.
All right. Love it, dude. Appreciate that. And it was good listening to you guys this morning.
I love it.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks for the question.
Mm-hmm.
So unless anyone has another question from Mike, let's see. Hello, Mike.
Hey, thanks for the space. It was really insightful.
Thank
I have a question about co-founder equity split. So I've been working on this marketplace. I don't want to mention the name because we're still kind of small, but we're in a niche and we're really well known, and we have over 500 users, over 500 listings on this marketplace, and about 20 grand in transaction volume. So I built this whole thing by myself starting like a year ago, but then I pivoted it to this marketplace 7 months ago, and then it just kind of grew in this community. And one of my friends from high school, he convinced me to start looking for funding. He joined a month ago as COO, and now we finally have an investor that wants to see a cap table, and now we're gonna write down our co-founder equity split. And this whole time it's been based on this thing where I said, oh, we'll just make it like a fair split because we're friends and we trust each other that it'll be fair. So we're kind of we're still deciding. We're not, we're still friends. But one thing I've noticed is that the technical people that I ask for advice on the split, they'll put it more heavily skewed towards me because I code and my friend doesn't. But the non-technical people, they'll be like, you guys should just do an equal split or like a 45-55, which I just wanted to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to meet you, Mike. That's an awesome question. And I'll just preface my answer with that even though this brand that I'm speaking on right now is a licensed business and I'm a sole proprietor pretty much for it. The Gura, my other business, I'm a equity holder and co-founder, but I've only been about 6 months into the mix of that. So I'm still in a naive state. But what I will say from my own experience, for the fact that you're the programmer and you're the technical co-founder, and you, to my understanding, you started this for a year and had this, your friend might have just hopped in. For that, I would make sure that you have far more equity. I definitely would not go with a 55-45 split. I would, again, it is case to case basis. So if he's providing tons of value, if he's the marketing guy or the growth guy and he's bringing users, I'm not sure what his role is, but there's tons of value in that, and that's actually my role. But we had I could speak for myself. We brought our CTO in after I joined, and I've even said like, hey man, we can give him more than I have because he's building the product, and when it goes south, he's going to be the one to fix it. I can't fix it. So for that, like, I respect that position. But I guess all in all is what I'd say is I think 55-45 is a far too close of a split. You can also build it out in many other ways. You can give them kind of like a base level equity piece, and then maybe build it on performance too. So I'd encourage you to, explore that way. Of course, running a business with a friend or a family member is a tough, undertaking in case things do go south. I sure hope it doesn't for you guys, but I'm sure you guys are connected, whether it's with your families or other friends. So just obviously be mindful of that. But I guess my main advice to you would be start at a comfortable place where you both agree upon it, maybe even 20%, 30%, maybe at most, and then add in a performance aspect where if he, brings on X amount of users or can grow the business to X amount of dollars, you'll, year over year, you can give him like 10% of the revenue or something, or maybe add on 5% to his equity and go from there. So that's kind of I guess a kind of not a scapegoat answer, but a way to kind of protect your back and mitigate risk more or less in case things do go south, but also give him a fair share that he deserves for his work.
Thank you. Do you have anything to say or add to that, Costas?
Yeah, personally, no, because I don't have the experience of Owen on this subject. So I think he gave a perfect response. He's more of an expert on this. I don't have a personal business yet, so I cannot talk about it.
Okay, that's fine. That was really really useful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining, and thanks for the question.
Yep.
Sure.
So
Thanks,
do we
Mike.
have anyone else? Okay, so I think, yeah, thank you, Owen, for coming to the show. I think it was a great discussion about many topics. I think we covered 2-3 main topics today. I hope the listeners got great value from it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Adam and Mike, for the questions. My next one will be on the 22nd with Fiona, the millennial money woman. I'm sure many of you know her. And we will talk about personal finance and investing. So keep an eye for this on the 22nd. I will post again a banner and a link. So thanks again, everyone, and see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Kostas. Talk soon, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.